It's summer again in southern Arizona, and that means a few things. It's hot, it's dry, and it's fire season. Arizona's no stranger to fire. A short drive up to Mount Lemmon can serve as a reminder of how devastating wildfires can be.
They've been through 2 big fires, and so they're probably more aware than most people in the valley. They've seen what can happen. They've lost houses, they've lost personal possessions, they've lost family pictures in 2 previous fires, so they're more aware. Really the ones I'm worried about are campers and people who use the forest irresponsibly. Up here we have a lot of visitors that camp and barbecue and do forest or campfires, and so we're trying to reinforce the idea that they need to be careful with it. They need to drown their fires when they leave and make sure they stir them and make sure they're cold to the touch before they leave. Most wildland fires are prevented, or could be prevented, with a little responsibility. If people would take responsibility for themselves, I think we could cut down on many of the fires.
There's obviously a lot that we can do to help prevent wildfires, but there are other things that make wildfires so big. What are they? Maybe trees can tell us the answer.
So I'm in a tree ring lab, and what we use tree rings for, amongst other things, is to date fires that happened in the past. We can date, when this tree was alive, when it was growing, and we can also date when each of these fire scars occurred. Trees that are not burned up in fires, and non-destructive fires, have the capacity to record the fires. They're wounded by the fire. You can compare the climate to the big fire years and see what the climate was like in those big fire years, and then it just pops out that every single big fire year was an extremely dry year and also a very hot year. So it's really this is plainly driven by how frequently it was hot and dry.
In southern Arizona, it seems like every year there's reports issued about high fire potential. And every year it feels like we see bigger fires.
Where we're at is we're starting to see a lot of large-scale fires, 500,000 acre fires, 1 million acre fires. In the past, a 30,000 acre fire that burned for 2 weeks was huge. And now a 30,000 acre fire is nothing. It happens in a few days. And the reason for that is it started years ago with such a great fire prevention program by the Forest Service, Smokey the Bear program. It was so good that that we eliminated a lot of the fires. The problem with that is that fire is a natural occurrence in the forest, and it's a healthy thing. As a result, there's a tremendous amount of fuel in the forest now. People need to be educated that it's their responsibility to save their house, their pets, their family. The greater percentage of the fires were human caused. When you go to a fire and the skies are blue and there's a cloud in the sky and you got a big fire burning, could be wind driven, then you know it's most likely human caused.
One thing's for certain, where there's fire, there's firefighters.
I'm finding down here in southern Arizona, a lot of our predictive models are stuff that we used for years and years, and it bases it on weather and fuels and topography and aspect and a lot of different things. They're not keeping up anymore. The fires are moving much faster than they used to. The interface is simply where wherever undeveloped land meets developed land. That's all it is. Used to have large areas of land that was undeveloped, and you had fires in there when they ran, but you were putting them out for the timber values or the wildlife values or whatever it was. Now most of our fires, probably, geez, on any of the large fires that we send Type 1 incident management teams to, I bet you 90–85% of them have an interface component to them now.
In the case of a fire, you want to call firefighters. In the case of a wildfire, you want to call a hotshot crew. Hotshot crews are considered an elite group among wildland firefighters. These crews are interagency resources that can be requested to respond to wildland fire incidents in any jurisdiction. When not fighting fires, hotshot crews may conduct training exercises like we see here.
If it came through here and that thing was on fire, chances are we'd probably do the same thing. We might just try to burn it down instead of getting people underneath it and exposing that. He's gonna bore into the center of it, and we'll be able to tell how or if it's rotten at all just by the chips that come out of the chainsaw. And just sizing the tree up, figuring out where the lean's at. Limb weight is a big part of it. It might not seem like much, but all those limbs, you know, on one side of the tree definitely adversely affect which way it's gonna fall.
Buffalo grass is an invasive species that is hard to remove and burns very, very fast. The Southern Arizona Buffalo Grass Coordination Center once burned a patch of buffalo grass the size of a football field in only 3 minutes.
So today we're doing a test burn of buffalo grass. We're trying to understand the characteristics of it so the firefighters know what they're up against when there's buffalo grass fires. We're having more and more buffalo grass in the urban areas, and so this is not only a wildland threat, it's an urban threat.
So we know that wildfires are destructive. We know that though they can be naturally caused, the majority are man-made. And we know that we can prevent them. But history has shown that prevention has provided fuel for future fires. So there's a definite fine line between our ability to prevent fires and the question of whether or not that prevention is a good thing. The good news? Brave men and women are ready to fight fires, pull buffalo grass, and be there when the next wildfire occurs.